Don't become a failure like your mother. The words cut through the air, colder than the expensive glasses on the table. My brother Marcus twisted his champagne glass, pointing his perfectly groomed finger at my 10-year-old daughter Emma. Listen carefully, sweetheart. Your mom rents her apartment. She does freelance work. She's 32 years old and doesn't own anything. That's not success. That's complete failure. The other club members looked our way. I didn't react. I didn't argue back. I just wiped some syrup from Emma's face and looked at my watch. Little did he know that by noon, his entire world would belong to me. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't throw my glass. I didn't make a scene. I simply folded my white napkin, placed it beside my untouched food, and stood up. The movement was so calm, so different from the drama Marcus wanted, that for a moment he looked confused. Running away already, Sophia? He shouted loud enough for the table of investors nearby to hear. We haven't even ordered the lobster yet. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just trying to help you succeed. I didn't look at him. I looked at Emma. Her eyes were wide, filling with the kind of shame that stays with a child for decades if you allow it. I took her hand. Felt cold. Come on, sweetie, I said calmly. Let's go. We walked out of the club, past the parking attendants who knew Marcus by name but only knew me as the sister, past the shiny row of leased luxury cars that Marcus pretended he owned. The silence in the parking lot felt heavy, but it wasn't the silence of giving up. It was the silence before a storm. I buckled Emma into the back seat of my car. Mom, she whispered. Is Uncle Marcus right? Are we failures? I stopped my hand on the door. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something inside me shift. Not breaking, but locking into place like a puzzle piece finding its spot. No, I said. Uncle Marcus is just loud. There's a big difference. I closed the door, creating a quiet space around us. I walked to the driver's side, but before getting in, I leaned against the warm car and pulled out my phone. The screen glowed bright in the midday sun. I opened my private messaging app and found the contact saved only as Derek. Derek was Marcus's chief operating officer. He was also the man I had secretly hired 3 years ago to keep the company running while Marcus played pretend boss. I typed 2 sentences. Activate the Phoenix clause. Mandatory shareholder meeting today. I watched the message go from delivered to read. 3 seconds later, typing dots appeared, then stopped. Understood. Derek knew better than to ask questions. He knew what Phoenix meant. It meant the waiting period was over. It meant the silent owner was stepping forward. I put the phone back in my bag. People often wonder how Marcus didn't know. How could he run a company for 3 years and not know his own sister owned most of it? It seems impossible, but Marcus had a specific kind of blindness. He was the loudest person in every room, and he believed that if power wasn't loud, it didn't exist. For 3 years, he had been emailing my hidden company, Titan Holdings, begging for money. He wrote long, impressive-sounding emails about his vision and his plans, using the same fake charm he used on his country club friends. He never suspected me because his ego wouldn't let him. To Marcus, I was just Sophia, the girl who rented, the girl who drove an old car, the girl who did consulting work. He couldn't imagine that the failure sitting across from him at brunch could buy and sell him multiple times before breakfast. His pride was his weakness. He thought he was powerful because he acted like it, never realizing he was standing on a trapdoor I had built. I got into the driver's seat and started the engine. It hummed to life, smooth and dependable. I checked the rear-view mirror. Emma was looking out the window, watching the country club fade away. Where are we going? She asked. To the park, I said. And then we're going to work. Right now, Marcus was probably ordering another round of drinks, laughing about his overly sensitive sister, completely unaware that he was already just an employee. The playground was peaceful, a small patch of green in the middle of the city. I sat on a bench watching Emma pump her legs on the swing, going higher and higher, trying to touch the sky. She looked happier now, the shame from the country club already disappearing in the breeze. Children bounce back quickly, but they notice everything. She needed to see that her mother wasn't a victim. Marcus told everyone I was a freelance consultant. It was an easy label to give me, vague enough to be unimportant, small enough not to threaten him. He liked to imagine I spent my days editing resumes or organizing spreadsheets for low pay. The truth was much different. I don't consult. I acquire companies. I'm the founder and only owner of SV Capital, a private investment firm. As of this morning, my personal portfolio is worth $847 million. I built it quietly, step by step, using the very thing my family made fun of, my silence. While Marcus was busy buying tables at charity events to look successful, I was studying market patterns. While he was leasing cars to appear wealthy, I was buying assets that actually made money. Check my phone. Still no reply from Derek. He was probably gathering the documents now. My mind drifted back 3 years. That's when Marcus's hospitality company almost collapsed. Marcus had gambled everything. Our parents' legacy, his own credit, even the lake cabin, on 3 luxury hotels in locations that clearly showed declining markets. He called me late one night, drunk and crying. He wasn't crying because he missed our parents. He was crying because the banks were demanding payment. He was going to lose his CEO title. And to a man like Marcus, that was worse than death. I could have written him a check. I could have helped him as his sister. But I knew Marcus. If I gave him money directly, he would hate me for it. He would spend it, waste it, and resent me for seeing him weak. So I became invisible. I created a hidden company called Titan Holdings. Through Titan, I contacted his creditors. I bought his debt. I invested $250 million into the company in exchange for ownership shares. Marcus thought Titan Holdings was some faceless corporation from New York. He spent 3 years trying to impress the board. He sent perfect reports. He used fancy language. He never once realized that the board he feared was the little sister he insulted at family dinners. I did it as an experiment. I wanted to see if, given a second chance, he would grow up. I wanted to see if he could become the leader he pretended to be. I gave him 3 years to prove his character. I looked up at Emma. She was laughing now, jumping from the swing into the wood chips, landing perfectly on her feet. Marcus had failed the test. He hadn't used the second chance to improve. He had used it to show off. He hadn't learned humility. He had turned his relief into a weapon. He treated my silence as permission to be cruel. He mistook my kindness for weakness. My phone buzzed. It wasn't Derek. It was a notification from my banking app. The automatic payment for the lake cabin property tax had just gone through. Another bill I paid. Another property he thought was his. I stood up and brushed the dust from my jacket. The 3-year experiment was finished. I had invested in potential but got nothing back. It was time to cut my losses. "Emma," I called out. "Time to go." She ran over. "Are we going home?" "No," I said, opening the car door for her. "We have a meeting." The drive was quiet until my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a text. It was a voicemail from Marcus. I almost ignored it. My habit from years of avoiding him was to delete it without listening. But I needed to know. I needed to be certain that the relationship I was about to destroy was already broken. "Emma, put your headphones on," I said. She listened, sliding her pink headphones over her ears and returning to her tablet. "Press play." Marcus's voice filled the car, distorted by poor speakers, but unmistakably cruel. "Sophia, you really embarrassed yourself today. Walking out like a child, making me look bad in front of important people. You're lucky I'm so forgiving. But let me be clear. If you pull something like that again, you're finished. No more family gatherings. No more visits to the cabin this summer. You want to act like a nobody? Fine. Go be one. But don't expect me to keep including you. Cabin. The family lake cabin that our parents built. The cabin where I spent every July paying for repairs, insurance, and lawn care. While Marcus posted Instagram photos calling it his sanctuary. He was threatening to ban me from a property I legally owned and financially maintained. I listened to the message again. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a conversation. It was a power move. He truly believed he owned me. He believed my place in the family was a favor he granted, a membership he could revoke if I didn't pay my dues in obedience. I looked at Emma in the rearview mirror. She was humming along to her music, innocent and unaware. Marcus hadn't just insulted me. He had threatened to cut her off from her heritage, from the only place that still felt like her grandparents. Something cold settled in my chest. It wasn't anger anymore. Anger is hot. Anger burns out. This was clarity. Pure, freezing clarity. I didn't delete the voicemail. I tapped share and forwarded the audio file to Derek. I added a note. Add to the personnel file. Then I reached into the back seat and pulled my blazer from the hanger. It was charcoal gray, tailored perfectly, my armor. I pulled into the parking garage of the Marcus Hospitality Group headquarters. A shining glass tower that Marcus liked to call his legacy. I put the car in park and put on the blazer. I buttoned it. I checked my reflection. The sister was gone. The freelance consultant was gone. The chairman of the board had arrived. I parked in the visitor spot right next to the reserved space marked CEO. All right, sweetie, I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. We're here. Why are we at Uncle Marcus's building? Emma asked, looking up at the glass tower. It reflected the afternoon sun, a mirror designed to intimidate. It's a building, Emma. I corrected her gently but firmly. Bricks and glass. Uncle Marcus works here. He doesn't own the sky. We got out. I stopped her on the sidewalk before we reached the revolving doors. I knelt down so we were at eye level. I straightened her collar and smoothed a loose hair from her forehead. This was the most important lesson of the day. Listen to me, I said. Uncle Marcus is like a firework. You know what fireworks are like? Emma nodded. Loud, bright, scary sometimes. Exactly. They make lots of noise and everyone watches them, but they burn out quickly. And when they're done, there's nothing left but smoke. I took her small shoulders in my hands. I don't want you to be a firework. I want you to be a lighthouse. Do you know what a lighthouse does? It shines. It stands, I said. It stays in one place. Doesn't scream. Doesn't run around. Just stands there solid and bright. And it guides ships home. It's powerful because it's steady. True power isn't about making other people feel small, sweetie. It's about having the strength to build things that last. I saw understanding appear in her eyes. It was a small spark, but it was there. She wasn't just a victim of her uncle's bullying anymore. She was seeing his weakness. Are you a lighthouse, Mom? She asked. I'm trying to be, I said. And today we're going to turn the light on. I stood up. I adjusted my blazer. I took my daughter's hand. We walked through the revolving doors, not as guests, but as owners. The security guard, who usually waved me through with a casual nod, straightened up when he saw my face. I didn't smile. I didn't stop. I walked straight to the elevator bank and pressed the button for the top floor. The doors slid shut, sealing us in. As the numbers climbed, I felt the last pieces of my old self falling away. The sister who apologized, the sister who kept the peace, the sister who paid the bills and let her brother take the credit. The doors opened on the executive floor. It was quiet, the silence of expensive carpet and serious money. Derek was waiting by the reception desk. He didn't say a word. He just nodded and handed me a thick folder. He's in the boardroom, Derek said. He thinks you're coming to apologize. Took the file. Let's go correct him. The boardroom was a display of ego. Glass walls on three sides, a view of the city skyline that screamed wealth, and a wooden table long enough to land a plane on. Marcus was sitting at the head of it, scrolling on his phone, his feet resting on the polished wood. When we walked in, he didn't even look up at first. "About time, Sophia. I hope you brought your apology." Then he saw Emma. His feet dropped to the floor. "What is this? Why is the kid here?" He stood up, his face turning red. "This is a business meeting, Sophia. Get her out now." "No," I said. I walked to the other end of the table. I pulled out a chair for Emma. "Sit here. You can draw." Marcus laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "Are you insane? Derek, call security. Get them out of here." Derek didn't move toward the phone. He moved toward the door. He closed it. Then he locked it. The click was loud in the silent room. Marcus looked at Derek, then at me. I sat down at the opposite end of the table. I didn't say a word. I just slid the folder across the glass. It spun perfectly, stopping inches from his hand. "Open it," I said. Marcus sneered. "What is this?" "Your resume. A babysitting bill." He flipped it open. I watched his eyes. I watched them scan the first page, the legal documents for Titan Holdings. I watched them move to the second page, the ownership chart showing Titan owning 73% of Marcus Hospitality Group. And then I watched them land on the signature line at the bottom of the page. Sophia May Sterling. The silence stretched thin and tight. When he looked up, his face was pale. "This is fake," he whispered. You don't have this kind of money. You rent an apartment." "I rent because I choose to," I said. "I own 73% of this company because I bought your debt 3 years ago. I am Titan Holdings, Marcus. I am the board you've been trying to impress." "No." He shook his head frantically. "No. Titan is a firm in New York. You're a consultant. I am a private equity investor with a portfolio worth $847 million, I corrected him. "And you are a liability I'm tired of carrying." He looked at Derek for help. "Tell her she's crazy." "She's the majority shareholder, Marcus," Derek said, his voice flat. "She signs my checks and yours." Marcus collapsed into his chair. The arrogance was draining out of him, replaced by terrified confusion. But I wasn't done. I nodded to Derek. "Show him the rest." Derek pulled up a spreadsheet on the main screen. It was an expense report. "We ran a full audit this morning," Derek said. "The Porsche lease, expensed as client transport. The country club membership, business development. The rent on your penthouse, corporate housing. You've been charging your entire lifestyle to the company, Marcus." Marcus stood up, slamming his hands on the table. "I am the CEO. Those are legitimate expenses. I have to look the part." "You don't own that Porsche, Marcus," I said, my voice cutting through his shouting. "The company leases it. You don't own your penthouse. The company rents it. You don't even own that suit. The company credit card paid for it." I leaned forward. "You are a paper tiger. You look fierce on the outside, but you're made of debt on the inside. You built a life on money you didn't earn, status you didn't create, and a company you don't own. And today the bill is due." Marcus looked at the screen, then at me. He looked at Emma, who was watching him with wide, curious eyes. He realized finally that there was no audience left to fool. The glass walls of his office weren't displaying his power anymore. They were exposing his weakness. "Sophia," he croaked. "We're family." "Yes," I said. "We are." The word "yet" hung in the air, heavy and threatening. Marcus looked at me, his eyes darting from the expense report to my face, searching for the sister who used to loan him money for emergencies. "You can't do this," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "I'm your brother. Mom and Dad. They wouldn't want this. Mom and Dad left us a legacy of hard work," I said. "You turned it into a show of fake success." "I'll pay it back," he said quickly. "I'll fix it. Just give me time. Don't ruin me, Sophia. Please." I looked at him. Really looked at him. He was sweating through his expensive shirt. He was pathetic. And for the first time I felt absolutely nothing for him. No anger, no pity. Just the cold calculation of an investor cutting a loss. "I'm not going to ruin you, Marcus," I said. "I'm going to save you." He blinked, hope appearing in his eyes. "You are?" "Yes. By teaching you the one thing you've never learned. Consequences." I turned to Derek. "Repossess the car today. Cancel the country club membership immediately. Terminate the lease on the penthouse. He has 30 days to move out." Marcus's face fell apart. "My car, my apartment. Where am I supposed to live?" "You can rent a studio," I said. "Like a nobody." "Sophia, please. And as for your job," I continued, ignoring him. "You are no longer CEO. You are demoted to junior account manager. Your salary is capped at $65,000 a year. The rest will be deducted to repay the stolen funds." He gasped. "I can't live on that." "I do," I said. "And I support a child." I stood up. I walked over to him and held out my hand. "Keys." He hesitated. He looked at the Porsche key fob on the table, the symbol of everything he thought he was. Then he looked at Derek, who was already typing the termination orders. Slowly, with shaking hands, Marcus picked up the keys and dropped them into my palm. I closed my fingers around them. They were cold. "You're not fired, Marcus," I said. "You're going to work. You're going to report to Derek every morning at 8 a.m. You're going to learn how to read a financial statement. You're going to learn what things actually cost." Turned to Emma. She was watching us, her eyes wide and serious. "See, sweetie," I said, holding up the keys. "And nobody can sign the paychecks. And nobody can take away the toys. Power isn't about being loud. It's about owning the keys." Marcus slumped in his chair, a man hollowed out. He had lost his car, his home, his title, and his dignity. But I hadn't destroyed him. I had stripped away the lies so he could finally, maybe, become a real person. "Let's go," I said to Emma. We walked out of the boardroom, leaving Marcus alone in his glass box. The door clicked shut behind us, a final, definitive sound. As we walked through the quiet hallway, I dropped the Porsche keys into Derek's hand. "Sell it," I said. "Put the money back into the company." "Understood," Derek said. "Good to see you, Sophia." "You too, Derek." We took the elevator down. When the doors opened to the lobby, the afternoon sun was streaming in, golden and bright. We walked out onto the sidewalk, back to my practical sedan. It wasn't a Porsche. It wasn't leased. It was mine. The drive home was different. The silence in the car wasn't heavy anymore. It was light, like the air after a storm clears. Emma had taken her headphones off. She was looking out the window, but this time she wasn't just watching the world go by. She was studying the city skyline as if she were trying to figure out how it was built. "Mom," she asked, turning to me, "is Uncle Marcus going to be okay?" "He is going to be tired," I said honestly. "And he is going to be humbled. But yes, he will be okay. In fact, he might finally be happy because for the first time in his life, he is going to earn what he has. And that is the only thing no one can ever take away from you." We pulled into the driveway of our rental house. It didn't look like a failure to me anymore. It looked like a fortress. It looked like freedom. We went inside, kicked off our shoes, and ordered pizza. That night, after Emma was in her pajamas, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table. My inbox was full of the usual updates from my portfolio companies. But one email stood out. It was from Marcus. The subject line was blank. Opened it. There was no long, flowery explanation this time. No excuses about vision or legacy. Just one line. "I will be there at 8 a.m. I didn't reply. I didn't need it. I simply clicked archive and watched the message disappear into the digital folder. The transaction was complete. "Mom, can you help me with math?" Emma asked, dropping her workbook onto the table next to my laptop. "Always," I said. "What are we learning?" "Compound interest." Smiled. I pulled her chair closer to mine. It's what happens when you do small, smart things over and over again, quietly, while everyone else is trying to hit a home run. I watched her head bent over the paper, her pencil moving steadily across the page. She wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy. She was just doing the work. She was building. My brother had spent his life trying to be a firework, desperate to be seen. I had spent mine becoming the sky, vast, silent, and owning everything the fireworks tried to light up. I looked at my daughter, then at the city lights glowing through the window. We didn't need to scream to be heard. We didn't need to lease a legacy to have one. We were building something real right here at this kitchen table. Success isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about owning the room before you even walk in. Share this if you're building a silent empire of your own.